Hi, I'm Manfredini, Ace's Home Expert, and in today's video, we're going to show you how to paint your vinyl shutters. Let me show you how it's done. So if you're going to be changing the color on your shutters, it's a good idea to test it. As an example, here's a shutter with several different shades of gray. You just want to make sure you're going to get it right because this is going to be on the front of your home, and so doing a little test and having some samples made to make sure you're falling in love with the right color before you put it on the front of your home. So when it comes to painting exterior shutters, no matter what the material is, for me, I like doing them while they're still in place. And there's a reason for that. Once you start removing those anchors, depending on the age of the shutters, you may find that they won't go back. And then you have to re-drill and put new anchors in, and it can be extremely frustrating. So depending on the style of home that you have, and if you're comfortable using a ladder, this particular home is 2 stories, so you do have to use a ladder to paint these shutters, leave them in place and paint them while they're there. If your shutters were previously painted, then just make sure that there's no peeling paint or any imperfections that may exist. You may need to do a little bit of scraping and sanding, but what's most important is that the shutter is nice and clean before you apply the new paint finish. Since we're going to paint them in place, it's a good idea to use some exterior grade painter's tape around the perimeter of the shutter against the wall to keep any paint from getting on the exterior of your home. This vinyl shutter was previously painted, and so there's a little area where the paint has come off, and so you want to go ahead and scrape that off, because you just don't want to put the new paint over the top of that. And in the corners here where there's probably a little bit too much paint, just use a scraper to remove any of that loose material, and then a little sanding sponge to kind of smooth it all out. Prep work is always the key when it comes to painting, and just a little bit extra time here goes a long way so that the paint job lasts longer and you don't have to do it as often. This is just a medium grit sanding sponge that I'm using on the surface. It doesn't have to be anything super aggressive. And again, it all depends on the condition of the shutters, but these are in pretty good shape. And when the new paint goes on, it should stick no problem. Once this is all sanded, I would use a damp rag to just wipe off what I've done here. So on this vinyl siding, I noticed a couple little holes right here where it probably cracked over time. So if you take a little exterior window and door caulk like this and just put it on your finger, you should be able to fill that in. You're gonna have to let that dry, but just to kind of have a base there, and it'll bond with the vinyl. You're kind of almost working it in like a little spackling. And the reason why you would use caulking over spackling is that it stretches. And so you got a better chance of it holding up for you longer term than just using kind of a spackling. And just kind of build it up enough, use your finger to smooth it all out, and then allow it to dry, which typically you can repaint this in a couple of hours. Use a window and door caulking for the exterior that's a paintable type. The acrylic latex ones are almost all paintable. Just make sure it says that on the tube when you buy it. So the prep work, like any paint job, is very important. You want to make sure that the shutters are clean. If there's any dirt and debris, you want to make sure that those are taken off. And so a damp rag is a really good idea to kind of wash any dirt and debris off of there. And then once it's all taped off and you've cleaned the shutters and they're dry, we're going to be using a Benjamin Moore paint, their Ben line. They have an exterior paint that's a low luster and it's 100% acrylic, which means that it will expand and contract really well, and it's designed to go onto vinyl. Now we're gonna brush this on as opposed to roll it. Since these have louvers on it, brushes seem to work best, and just take your time. There's a good chance that you may need to use 2 coats on there, but this color does cover pretty well, and if you take your time, you'll get amazing results. All right, our first coat is finished, it's dry, it's time now to apply the second coat. As you can see, painting your vinyl shutters is not that hard. You can do it with a little help from Ace. Now you can always stop by the store for more advice. You can go to acehardware.com and please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. Remember, Ace is the helpful place.